All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about more philosophical stuff tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about homesickness and then some camper concern forms Goose is going to go into with you. So I just wanted to start with, if you guys wouldn't mind in the chat, just write down what you think homesickness looks like. Like if you were looking at your table of boys or your circle of boys, as we talked about yesterday at a mealtime, what would a homesick camper look like? We can talk facial expressions, excellent, Connor put in uninvolved, right? Kind of staying away from the group, not eating, definitely sad, that sad face, not interacting with other campers, right? That camper that kind of pulls himself aside, looking down. These are great answers. Talking about home a lot, distracted, not participating. Excellent. And yeah, the obvious, Michael, absolutely. Telling a counselor over and over again, I want to go home, right? That's definitely homesickness. So we can see in body language, in their vocal expressions, kind of what homesickness is going to look like. This summer is going to be an interesting summer because a lot of kids have been at home for school, right? Remote learning. So they've been spending a lot of time with their parents. We do not know for sure how this is going to play out, right? Kids might be like, yes, away from mom, I'm out of the house, and have the greatest summer ever. Or they may have that feeling of like, ooh, I don't know what's going on at home. I just knew every minute of every day, and now I don't know, and feel that, feeling of homesickness. Homesickness itself is an interesting word because it's not usually like they're so sick that they need to be at home. There's usually some sort of underlying cause to that feeling of sadness or not wanting to be at camp. And your first job is to identify it, right? So that kid that's not telling you he wants to go home, it's just a little withdrawn, sad face, things like that. So identifying that kid that's left out. And Connor brought up a really great question last night about how do you engage those campers? It's whether it's homesickness or they're just not making friends, your job is to constantly involve the campers with each other. Once we do identify, maybe it is a little bit of homesickness, you talk to them a little bit more, they really want to go home, they don't think they can do this. There are going to be some underlying causes, right? One of the big ones that we've seen kind of increase over the years is the anxiety of what's happening at home with their parents. So especially in the time of COVID, campers are very worried that their parents are safe. So that's going to be something that we have to reassure them. Now, number one rule, campers cannot call their parents. No matter how sad they are, do not ever promise, don't worry, I'm going to go speak to Goose and Jess and we're going to get you on the phone with your mom. That will never happen. That always makes homesickness worse. No matter whether you're homesick or not, if you haven't seen your mom for a long time and you hear her voice on the phone, you get a little emotional. That's just what happens. So we're not going to allow the campers to do that because we want them to learn that independence and how to kind of be confident on their own. We can say that we're going to check in with home. I'm going to speak to Goose and Jess. They're going to speak to your mom, make sure everything's okay, not something to worry about. Or, parents check in with the camp all the time. Like we know that they're okay. So that is one aspect of homesick, is that anxiety of what's going on at home. And Goose and I, especially Goose, does a really good job of kind of making sure parents know that when they're writing letters to their campers, to make sure that they are positive, upbeat, and not just telling them what they're missing at home, right? Like asking more questions in a letter is better. I'm just going to stop. Tommy, you said, don't international campers normally get a phone call with their parents? They do not. They used to, I think, when they first arrived at camp, maybe, if they were flying by themselves, but just to kind of say that they were safe. But no one gets to call home to speak to their parents.
That's probably what I was thinking of.
Yeah, if I even remember that correctly, but otherwise they don't typically get a phone call home. Okay, so anxiety about what's going on. Homesickness can also manifest itself in that just this little bit of lack of confidence that they don't really know what's happening, right? Especially the first couple of days. They don't know where the waysides are, our bathrooms, right? They don't know how to follow their schedule. They don't know how to get from one activity to another. They don't know when meals are going to be. Those very basic things can help a kid. So if you just write out the schedule for them, even sometimes that will help with homesickness because they're suddenly confident, okay, I can do this. I know where I'm supposed to go next. I know how to follow this. Give them a little, we're going to give them a tour the first day, but make sure that maybe they were in the back of the group and they need that secondary tour of, let's just walk to the waysides together. Let me show you where this is. And, you know, when someone says library rec room and they're like, I don't know where the library or the rec room is, right? Make sure that they're confident in knowing things like that. But I think that one of the biggest things is talking to the campers and finding out what's going on, why they're feeling this way, right? There's usually an underlying cause. It's not that they necessarily want to go home. They don't know how to talk to the other campers and make friends, so they're feeling nervous. You can very easily, like we talked about last night, get them involved with the other campers. Find common interests between your campers. Ask one of your really strong, confident, returning campers to buddy up with the other campers. Show them the way. Be their good friend, right? And you can do that. And a lot of times, especially for the younger campers, if you kind of pull that returning camper aside and like, I have a really important project for you. I need you to help me make sure that this camper is feeling comfortable at camp. And since you're such a veteran and you really know what's going on, I'm really going to rely on you to help me with this. And then that child feels empowered. And then the homesick child feels as though they've got a buddy. So there's definitely ways that we can bring the group together, make sure that the kids are feeling confident. I will say, all of that being said, your number one back pocket tool for homesickness is distraction. Distract them the best that you possibly can. If it's late at night and they're feeling sad, come down to the library and grab a book. Have them find their favorite book, talk to them about books a little bit, take a book back to their cabin to read before bed. Have them write a letter to someone really important to them to tell them the 10 good things that happened today. Distract them the best you can. If they're upset during the day, you're going to be like, let's go play a game. Let's go soccer. Let's go do whatever we can to get your mind off of things. Before bed is a big homesick time, and free swim and siesta. Those are kind of the big three. Siesta, because it's a quiet time. Everyone's in their cabin. They're usually writing letters home, so they start to get a little emotional. So just encourage positive conversations. What are some good things that happened in your day? What can we write? You know, mom and dad, grandma, whomever is at home is going to want to hear the good things. For a free swim, if you find that they're not really connecting with anyone, you can't really find a good buddy in the cabin to keep them really occupied during free swim, Goose does have like a free swim challenge where kids can kind of do different activities, which will, and they can like earn brog points for their team. So then they can have a purpose, do something to accomplish it during free swim. And then, as I just said, for bedtime, read a book, write a letter, just tell a funny story, ask them to tell you like their best bedtime story, you know, something like that. It's distraction is going to be your easiest tool, but also make sure you're getting to know your kids so you can figure out if there's an underlying cause. Goose, did you want to add anything to homesickness and then go into camper concerns?
Yeah, I'll tell you what, all of that is fantastic. There was a lot thrown at you at once there, obviously, because we're trying to condense these sessions. So, you know, I would, you know, I'd go back and listen to this again if it kind of sort of washed over you. The one thing I'll complement that statement with is just to simply tell you it's a process. Homesickness is a process that, boy, we wish we could rush right along, but it goes at its own pace. And I will tell you that usually our drop dead date on homesickness is whatever it is that is the halfway mark for them. That at that point, once they've made it through the halfway mark, they realize they're halfway there and that they can make it the rest of the way. Everything that you're going to do for a homesick kid is going to help, but it may not seem that way. And, you know, you may feel like you're banging your head against the wall and you feel like maybe, okay, we got progress, and then they relapse. And that's a thing that happens. And, you know, what we're going to encourage you to do between you and your co-counselors and, whoever is in charge of the unit, is to try to self-manage these problems as much as you can before they start becoming a distraction from you executing your job. So for example, you've got a kid who doesn't want to participate because you're trying to teach a class. That's when somebody like myself or Jess or Gustav or whoever's available will step in and try to sort of take cover for you here and work with that kid while you continue to run your program. But what we don't want to be is a sort of a catch-all for every kid that's feeling homesick, because, well, we'd be probably inundated and overwhelmed. That's, part of what our job here as a counselor is to handle that stuff. And, don't be worried. Don't be scared when you deal with this, like, oh my God, am I doing it right? What do I do? This kid's inconsolable, that sort of thing. That's going to all be part of the landscape. And sometimes, honestly, you just got to sit and let them feel their feelings for a little bit. I will come back with a kid who's all calmed down from having a hysterical moment of homesickness, and people are like, what did you do? And I'm like, really nothing. I shot some pool, while they kind of went up the bell curve and came back down. And then we talked for a little while, and we talked about whatever, could get their mind off of it. Sometimes you just got to let it run its course a little bit, and they realize on the other end of it, they're all right. I will tell you, the other thing that you end up becoming is sort of a therapist for kids, because, the best active listening you can do with homesickness is just to continue to ask them questions. What's your best time of day? Why do you think it's the best time of day? What's your worst time of day? What makes it the worst time of day? Who have you been hanging out with? And who do you want to hang out with? And what do you want to do? Just keep asking them questions until they're sick of talking to you and want to go back to a program. That's all part of it. And you just gotta, it's a process that you just gotta let run. All right, so something I'd like you guys to quickly look at right there, click on that. It should pop up in your browser. It is a picture of our blank camper concern form. At least I hope it's blank, good Lord. But what I will tell you is this, let me paint a picture for you. It's November. And our good friend Nat Crane is sitting in his office. He's having his morning cup of coffee, and he's reflecting on what a great summer it was. And it's November, and we're getting into Thanksgiving, and it's December, and summer camp is a long distant memory. And then the phone rings, and Mrs. Jones calls because she just heard something at the table about, little Billy Jones's experience at camp. And she's all concerned now, like, what was that? How was it handled? How was it managed? What did you do? And Nat can't even pull the staff into the office because we've all gone home for the year. And so he needs some point of reference as to, did we recognize camper issues when they came up? Who was informed about those camper issues? And most importantly, what was done to help resolve those camper issues? You cannot know, nor will you ever know, the importance of that information to Jess and Nat in the off season, to be able to talk with parents and say, yes, they were homesick. Yes, they were homesick for 4 days. Yes, there were times that the kid tried to sneak out of the cabin and go use the phone. We were aware of all of these things, and here's how we managed all of them. The worst thing that we can say to a parent is, I have no idea what happened, and I have no idea how we handled it. So this form exists so we don't run into those kinds of problems down the road. Now, it doesn't mean that we just write it out, we put it in a book, and we forget about it. When a camper has some sort of problem, whether it be behavioral, emotional, maybe even physical in some cases, we're going to fill out one of these camper concern forms. We're going to get it filled out. We'll keep a stack of them in your CQ where you can get access to them easily. You will turn them into your unit leader and or whoever's in charge of the unit, and that will turn it into the front office, and we will look at it and then decide where are we going from there. So it is used in the moment as well. Does that mean that you don't verbally come up and tell Jess or myself or Gustav or whoever, about the problem? No, of course you're going to verbally mention it as well. But the first thing you're going to hear out of our mouth as a response is, did you write up a camper concern form? If the answer is no, then I'm saying I will not deal with this problem until such time as one of those forms are filled out, because we absolutely need that information. Without question, we need that information, as for the reasons we discussed. And once we have that, we will move forward with solving the problem. And so you guys are doing a very big service to camp and making sure that you are consistently keeping on top of that. That's what that is meant to bring up, is that image. And I'm going to let me quickly look at it, make sure there isn't anything I forgot on the form. It's taking forever to open. There we go. Yeah, it's a simple one. What unit, what cabin, what counselors, what date? And then is it a cabin concern, an activity concern, or other? And then just summarize, what's the problem? How do we solve that problem? And what action did we end up taking to help solve that problem? Even if, and this is the big thing, even if the problem is completely resolved, 100%, you dealt with it, it's resolved, there's nothing else to be done about it, I still need you to fill this out for exactly the reasons I started with, is because we still need to be able to comment on it with intelligence and information if it comes up later on. So that's the camper concern. Any questions? Okay. So I think that's, that's our 22 minutes.
Yeah. Any questions on anything that we've gone over at all? Awesome.
Great.
So all our videos are on our YouTube channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel.
I had a question. I put it in the chat.
Sorry. More
Okay.
experience?
I think more experience, yeah.
Yeah, okay, nice.
Yes. At least older anyway.
Okay.
Experience is a relative term, but yes, you will, the bottom line is that you will have somebody to bounce information off of.
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about the process.
Because so is the first time, to have tips and all this.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, experience is good, but the kids, just as a side note, I'll simply say, sometimes, I've been doing this for I don't even know how long, and every year the phrase, "Oh, that's a new one," will come out of my mouth. So, experience is great, but it doesn't prepare you for everything. So,
okay,
there it is.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay, guys.
So we're not meeting again until Monday. So Monday's our next one at 8 p.m. And yeah, if you want to see any of the replays or anything, definitely check out our YouTube page. They're all in there. I actually created a folder called staff training because I'm getting more technologically advanced. So yeah, I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you Monday.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.